Imagine being 11 years old, armed with, well, nothing but a smartphone, a deep sense of justice, and this knack for noticing what the adults are actively trying to hide.
It is a total David versus Goliath scenario.
Exactly. I mean, imagine an invisible wall right in the middle of your town. On one side, a multi-million kroner municipal construction project is just completely paralyzed, halted indefinitely by a few bats.
Right.
But then on the other side of the exact same street, massive bulldozers are actively gearing up to tear through a major bat habitat without a second thought. Welcome to today's Deep Dive.
We've got a really fascinating stack of documents today. We're looking at local newspaper clippings, biological database guidelines, and some incredibly dense European legal directives.
Yeah, and the mission of this deep dive is to follow Kesser and Steen. They're these two incredibly sharp 11-year-old students from a local nature and innovation class. We're going to explore how they dive into this bizarre bat story that somehow stops a construction site at the old Tarzan Trail, but, conveniently fails to stop another project right across the street near Crystal Lake.
And we'll also discover what wild orchids have to say about all this, like whether they can just change the game entirely.
Seriously, hit that subscribe button right now so you can keep following the ongoing adventures of these two brilliant students from the Nature and Innovation class. Okay, let's unpack this.
So to start, we have to look at the central contradiction Kesser and Steen uncovered. And I love this detail. Steen previously only knew about bats from reading Batman comics.
Which is so funny because, the dark, corrupt 1940s Gothic architecture of Gotham City, it ironically mirrors the small-town politics they're about to uncover.
Yeah, totally. So they start looking at the Tarzan Trail. It's this area built about 20 years ago with public facilities, things like nature shelters and this huge 1:2 scale pirate ship on a school playground.
Right, but construction to tear down half the school near that trail was recently halted, right? Because they suddenly found bats in the trees.
Exactly. And on paper, that looks like a win. Local conservation working perfectly. But then the boys look right across the street to an area near Crystal Lake.
Which is at the Vogtbakken Konvolvesh, right?
Yeah, and it's a legally protected pond under Section 3, but here a massive housing project is just moving forward. The bulldozers are ready. And the crazy thing is, the boys have actual audio proof of 4 different bat species at that exact lake.
4 different species?
Yeah.
And yet the construction is still a go. I mean, it's like a bouncer at a club, right? How can the environmental bouncer be incredibly strict on one side of the street, but just completely blind to the VIPs sneaking in through the back door on the other?
That is the exact question the local newspaper started asking. And a former municipal boss actually went on the record claiming no fundamental environmental rules were broken.
Right.
He basically implied the kids just didn't understand the complex rules around resting places.
Which is wild, because the boys managed to unearth this massive moving box of disorganized documents about the project, plus a recent complaints board statement that strongly suggests the municipality is actually in the wrong here.
To really understand why the bats should be stopping the bulldozers at Crystal Lake, we have to talk about biology, and specifically the incredibly strict laws governing it.
Right, the EU Habitat Directive, Annex 4th, I think.
Yes, it's some of the strictest nature legislation in all of Europe. And it doesn't just protect the bats themselves, it strictly protects their resting places, their breeding grounds, and crucially, their infrastructure.
Infrastructure, like their flight paths.
Exactly. Bats use old hollow trees and dark corridors in the landscape to navigate, and Crystal Lake is a vital pantry for them. The open water produces massive amounts of insects.
So they need a safe commute to get to their food.
Right. But the municipality plans to take the quiet dirt road around the lake and turn it into an open, artificially lit road for the new houses.
Which destroys the infrastructure.
Yep. Bats fear artificial light because it makes them totally visible to birds of prey. And the area is full of buzzards, kites, and kestrels.
Wait, so you're telling me you don't even have to cut down a bat scree to break the law? Just turning on a street lamp basically builds an invisible brick wall across their daily commute.
That is exactly how the biology works. If you light up that road, you sever the flight path. It's a death sentence for the bats.
But the municipality had some, let's call it creative reasoning for why the houses were fine,
Hey,
right?
this is wild. What's fascinating here is they officially argued that building houses prevents too much forest from bothering the bats.
Bothering them. I mean, that is just biologically absurd. Old forests are literally their natural habitat.
Exactly. It makes zero sense.
Okay, so if the law is so strict and the biology is so clear, why isn't the boys' audio evidence of the 4 bat species stopping the bulldozers?
This is where we run into a major bureaucratic wall. Kesser and Steen tried to submit their audio recordings to the official national database, which is called arter.dk.
Right. And they are rejected.
Flat out rejected because of the microphone they used.
They use a smartphone, right?
Yeah.
Because they're 11.
Right. But bats communicate via ultrasound, usually between 20 kilohertz and 130 kilohertz. A standard phone mic physically cuts off any sound above 22 kilohertz.
Ah, to save data space. So it can't even pick up the echolocation.
Exactly. To get official data, the database requires a visual sonogram, which means you need a specialized external microphone like an echo meter or a bat logger.
And how much do those cost?
Anywhere from 3,000 to 50,000 kroner.
Here's where it gets really interesting. So the official database is basically saying if you don't have a 50,000 kroner microphone, your reality doesn't exist. That sounds like a perfect loophole for a developer.
It really is. The sources describe it as a sort of biologist mafia filter. The system demands such high-end scientific proof that citizen science just gets completely ignored.
Wow.
And it creates a blank spot on the map. The municipal planners look at the database, see no bats listed at Crystal Lake, and stamp the permit.
Meanwhile, the bats are literally flying right over their heads. But what about the environmental consultants? Don't developers have to hire biologists to check the site?
They do, but we have to look impartially at the financial incentives here. Private consultants are paid by the developers who want to build.
Right, so there's a clear conflict of interest.
Well, they respond to specific mandates. If the municipality only asks them to look for lizards on the ground, they don't bring the 50,000 kroner microphone to look up for bats. They just do what they're paid to do.
That's just wild. But wait, what about the local environmental groups, the ones who fought so hard to save the Tarzan Trail? Why aren't they up in arms about Crystal Lake?
That brings us to the NIMBY Effect, not in my backyard. The documents show that the local branch of the Nature Conservation Society fought really hard against the Tarzan Trail project because it threatened their own immediate backyards.
Their own views.
Exactly. So the municipality basically gave them a very cozy, substantial brushwood fence to protect their sightlines.
And once they got the fence,
They quieted down. The concrete pouring across the street at Crystal Lake didn't affect their backyards directly, so they stopped fighting.
just raw local politics.
Yeah.
Get your concession, get your brushwood fence, and ignore the rest. So the boys' data is rejected, the consultants won't look, and the locals are bought off with a fence. What do they even do next?
They pivot brilliantly. They move from bats to botany.
Oh, the orchids.
Yes. Kesser and Steen know about the broad-leaved helleborine. In Danish, it's the skov-halebe, or Epipactis helleborine.
Right, which is a strictly protected wild orchid.
Strictly protected, and it is growing right in the middle of the Crystal Lake construction zone.
You can't just pave over a protected orchid.
No, you can't. Orchids are incredibly sensitive to any changes in soil and hydrology. Building a road there would destroy the fungal network they rely on.
But wait, wouldn't that be in the environmental impact assessment? The VVM report?
It should be, but the documents show the VVM report for this area was conveniently saved away, hushed up.
Of course it was.
So since the municipality won't acknowledge the orchids on paper, the boys force them to acknowledge it in reality. They design an orchid route, a public walking trail right through the construction zone.
That is genius.
Yeah.
Just like they realized they couldn't win in the courtroom,
Yeah.
so they turned the crime scene into a tourist attraction. You can't pave over an orchid if a dozen hikers are standing there taking pictures of it.
Exactly. By inviting the public to walk the trail, they force the invisible nature into the spotlight. The municipality can't pretend the plants aren't there when citizens are literally mapping them out on a Sunday stroll.
It strips away all their plausible deniability.
It really does. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, it's the timing of this that makes it so crucial.
What's happening right now?
Right now, the European Commission is conducting a massive public stress test on the Birds and Habitats Directives.
The same directives protecting the bats.
Yes. They have a portal called Have Your Say, and it's open for public input until August 4th, 2026.
Wow.
The EU specifically wants to know about local implementation failures. Things exactly like hushed-up orchids, destroyed flight paths, and databases like arter.dk that filter out citizen science.
So Kesser and Steen can bypass the local mayor, bypass the expensive private consultants, and take their smartphone recordings directly to Brussels.
Yes. Two 11-year-olds can take their evidence of a broken local system and use it to evaluate European environmental law.
That is incredible. I mean, what a journey today. We started with two kids looking at a local school playground and ended up with them potentially influencing European Union policy.
It shows how powerful strict environmental laws can be, but only if citizens actually force transparency on the ground.
Right. So what does this all mean for you? Well, first off, hit subscribe so you don't miss what Kesser and Steen do next, because the Have Your Say portal is still open. But I want to leave you with a thought.
Yeah.
We said this whole deep dive talking about how physical infrastructure, lit roads, houses, creates an invisible wall that blocks wildlife. But think about this. What if the digital infrastructure we use to protect nature is creating its own invisible wall?
Like the official apps in the database.
Exactly. When a system demands a 50,000 kroner microphone just to record a bat, or a bureaucratic database filters out everyday people trying to help, it builds a wall that keeps ordinary citizens from protecting their own backyards.
That is a really unsettling thought.
It is. So keep an eye on your local trails. You never know what's hiding just out of sight. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.